If this is my first Lower Decks review that you're looking at, you're watching them in the wrong order. You don't start with this one. If you start with this one, you're going to jump to the conclusion that I detest Lower Decks. And if you like the show, it's going to be, another old fogey who has to hate on any new stuff because it can't fit his worldview of what Star Trek should be. That is not the case. I actually like Lower Decks. But Second Contact is not my cup of Earl Grey hot. I was horribly disappointed the first time I watched it. And after going back later on, having enjoyed the series, I rewatched this episode and said, this is just as shit as it was the first time. One person has posited that this episode was demanded by executives, that they wanted it to be like Rick and Morty, but with Star Trek. If you're wondering at that, it's because the creator of Lower Decks actually worked on Rick and Morty, so it could be that. Or it could be that he was giving what was expected of him, giving that Rick and Morty history. Either way, though, I think that Rick and Morty was involved with this episode in some way, and that is probably the reason why it is awful. Because of that, I'm going to be comparing it to Rick and Morty at times, since, as I've said many times, you can't riff on a bad comedy because the riff is, that's a bad joke, and there are only a few ways of saying that. So all that's left is to maybe do a post-mortem on this thing. If you're sitting there saying, don't explain the joke, my answer to you is either going to be, oh, you mean the awful joke? Or even more often, what joke? We kick off with Boimler giving a captain's log entry while they're in dock at a starbase, but he's talking about their coming mission, a second contact situation. But that's interrupted by Mariner. So right away, to go to Rick and Morty, that series' first episode introduced us to Rick by having him show up drunk, babbling away, and prepared to do something very dangerous. Mariner shows up drunk, babbling away, and does something very dangerous.
I love honor! I demand honor!
It's not the same thing as a species-eliminating bomb, but definitely obviously dangerous. Let's take a little time to dissect this. And again, don't tell me, don't explain the joke, or don't take this seriously. Look, I don't even want to be here today, all right? I got a lot better episodes of Lower Decks I could be enjoying right now. I'm stuck with this one. Fuck it, we're making some lemonade here, all right? The purpose of this first scene is to establish things. Rick and Morty's opening showed us that Rick knew a lot of stuff, but is grossly irresponsible. Rick is the protagonist, but not the hero. Mariner, despite also being introduced to us as being grossly irresponsible, is presented for the rest of the episode as the otherwise correct, experienced officer who was Lower Decks more by choice than by incompetence. Now, let me reiterate that the problem with Second Contact is that it is much more like Rick and Morty than what it soon became. So I'm not criticizing it for not aping that show more, far from it. But what it shows you is how Second Contact does things like Rick and Morty, despite it missing fundamental parts of what makes Rick and Morty work. After the titles is when Tendi shows up to take her place on the Cerritos, and Boimler is there to handle her orientation. So naturally, Mariner hops in to take over.
We're not really elite. We're more like the cool, scrappy underdogs of the ship. You know, we don't wash our hands, we're doing kick flips all the time.
This is here to establish what the show is all about. Good. Let's move on.
You really don't care about moving up in rank?
Been there. Definitely over it. Whenever you think for yourself, they knock you back down.
You know, for someone who claims to hate rank, you certainly bring it up a lot.
Yes, I'm very complicated, thank you.
Remember, this show has already established her as grossly irresponsible. And grossly irresponsible plus self-important does not make Mariner the hero. It makes Mariner a trust fund baby. So on the tour, they meet Rutherford, help him with his cybernetic implant. He's new to being a cyborg. While repeating the point that Boimler is super into parts of this ship, like the bridge and the warp core.
Computer, show us the warp core. Wow, amazing. What an impressive feat of engineering.
Really into the warp core. while Mariner is into a gym where naked male Olympians work out. Not a criticism that she has this program. We're all human. Well, obviously not the green girl. But the fact that she so quickly presumed that Tendi would want to see this contributes to a character arc for the episode that is not flattering. I mean, who else says, hey, you know what I bet this person wants to see? A bunch of dicks. But Mariner has little regard for what others might think and simply makes the situation be what she thinks it should be. And when called upon it, responds as if it's absurd that anyone wouldn't agree with her. Boimler is soon called to the bridge so he can have a one-on-one meeting with the captain. She wants him to watch Mariner and report to her if Mariner breaks protocol. If you've watched my videos in the correct order and not started with this one, then you already know that the captain is Mariner's mother, who wants her off this ship. So that's what this is all about. Boimler, of course, has no idea about this, but he's been offered an opportunity. Advance your career, or don't be a rat-fink weasel backstabber. As far as Rutherford's date goes, personally, I don't believe in going this fast. This is happening all over the ship. Ransom had been bitten by some bug, and now he's been spreading plague everywhere. Unaware of all of this drama, on the planet, Boimler and Mariner are working to help get communication set up so that this planet can talk to the Federation. But Boimler tracks Mariner heading off with a crate of something. And after a confrontation where he pulls a phaser on her, he thinks that she's likely selling weapons, she reveals the contents are farm equipment. Except they've got other problems. While hiding from the spider, Mariner says that she was cutting through the red tape so these farmers didn't starve. You know, because the shovel and hoe is the difference between life and death on a planet with warp technology. That sarcasm is because Mariner defends her actions, saying that she has all of this experience, so we have to defer to her. Except that's why this stinks of bullshit, or whatever it is that spider drops. What possible reason do we have to put even the slightest faith in Mariner? What have we seen her do? Get drunk, hurt someone, and watch porn. That's it. That does not say you can count on my judgment over other people's. That says I defy regulations because it's one more way I can disappoint my mother. What does she do to demonstrate good judgment here?
2 for emergency training. Oh! Ugh!
No, that's not it.
Just stun it.
No, that could spoil the milk.
Spoil what milk?
These guys probably milk it.
Still not getting any warmer.
Ooh, take off your pants.
If you get near a good idea, wake me. For fuck's sakes. At this point, any faith in Mariner whatsoever should be hunted down and shot as an example to others. Especially because she lets the spider do this because the farmers say it's not going to do any real harm, which is really not their call. Or is this the Star Trek where having your naked body used against your will is okay? I'm pretty sure that's without precedent. Actually, I forgot the child. Maybe it's not without precedent. This tedious shit isn't even over yet. Ugh. And before you say you're taking this too seriously, well, I'm not taking it as a comedy because it doesn't know what it wants to be, so it's being a very bad dark comedy. This works in Rick and Morty because they are quite open about Rick and what he is. We don't trust Rick because Rick makes clear his skewed view of things. Rick and Second Contact Mariner both embrace their way, but only Second Contact feels the need to justify the character. But Rick is unapologetically himself. You can't have this dark Rick and Morty style comedy if you want us to see Mariner as something other than a Rick. Rick would let Morty go through this if it served his interest. Mariner lets Boimler going through this because she thinks she can decide what's best. This makes Mariner self-obsessed because she's uncaring of Boimler's situation, while it makes Rick look like the asshole that he freely admits that he is. As it is, this whole story is frankly just mean-spirited.
That's my heart! It hurts when you pump it! Oh, God! Oh,
Sorry.
I rest my case. For those of you who want closure on this episode, Rutherford's date is self-sabotage when he gets more interested in a malfunctioning door than his hot date. Tendi loves the hell out of how she spent her day. And the slime that was left on Boimler because of that spider is the cure because, for fuck's sake, of course something stupid is the answer. The episode then has the nerve to imply the lesson here should be that the senior officers didn't appreciate the lower decks crew that did most of the heavy lifting to save the day, implying that it justifies Mariner's behavior and explains Boimler covering for her to the captain. This is, hands down, the worst episode of Lower Decks I've ever seen. It made me dread having to continue with the series. There are dark places we'll go to, but it's going to have a much better handle on how to make this work as the Star Trek that the show wants to be, rather than the sci-fi subversion that Rick and Morty wants to be. Lower Decks is great when it's being its own thing, not when it's emulating something that it isn't.
All hail the Overlord! All hail the Overlord!
Oh, what happened? Where am I? Did I eat flesh?
Hardly any.
How much did I eat?